What's up, people? You know who I am.
That Hotep Jesus dude. That Hotep Jesus.
We got breaking news. Somebody live on the scene in the Ukraine. Gonzalo, what's up, bro? How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. First things first, I want to check on you. You said there's some bombing happening. You okay?
Oh yeah, I'm perfectly fine. You guys got to keep in mind that Kharkov, where I'm located in eastern Ukraine, is a city of I think 1,400,000 people, and so stuff happens in a very localized place. I mean, like for instance, in my own case, I heard some jets passing by earlier about I guess about 10, 15 minutes ago. And it was pretty exciting, and they dropped some bombs, and a bunch of people were talking about it on Telegram, and but it was like localized at the military. It hit some military target, and so not much to say. But what people have to understand is, I think, from what I'm understanding, in the United States, people are saying that the Russians are losing, that the invasion is a disaster. And here on the ground, everybody's like, what are you talking about? Because the Russians are winning, and they're about to capture between 45,000 and potentially as many as 60,000 Ukrainian soldiers. And so anybody saying that the Russians are losing, it's just bizarre, because if you just look at a map of Ukraine, a tactical map of where the Russian army is and how much ground it's covered since the invasion started on Thursday morning local time, you realize that the Russians are conquering or invading or taking over more territory than the Americans did in 2003 when they invaded Iraq. And so everybody's like, what are you talking about? And so it seems to me that a lot of people in the United States and Europe are getting this very bizarre and fictitious sense that the Russians soon are going to lose. They're not going to lose, man. They're winning. And this fantasy, this wishful thinking that has gone, it's gone to another level, quite frankly, of like thinking things that are just fantastical and unreal. I don't get it myself, to tell you the truth, but well,
let's add a bit of
sure.
You are in Kharkov?
Yeah, that's in eastern Ukraine. I just came in this morning from Kyiv.
Okay.
What happened was that last Wednesday, I live in Kharkov here, and last Wednesday I went out to Kyiv because I had to do some business there and do a minor but annoying bit of residency issues.
Okay.
And so I flew out there for I was supposed to be there for 2 days. And on the first morning I wake up, my assistant called me at 6 a.m. to tell me that the war had started. I thought that I'd have at least a couple of more weeks, or else I wouldn't have gone,
Right.
And so, it was very surprising. And I think, well, of course, everybody was surprised. And of course, that's the point. And the invasion started, and it hasn't stopped. And what's really interesting is comparing the way the United States fights a war and the way Russia fights a war. The United States sends in its air force and just levels everything. They just destroy all the infrastructure, everything down to sewage plants. They destroy it all.
Yeah.
And then they roll in.
Right.
But the Russians don't do that at all. What they do is they don't mess with the civilian population. They just ignore it altogether. And what they go after, and what they did in the first hour, is that they went after the Ukrainian Air Force and just annihilated it. The Air Force, radar systems, runways, they either destroyed the runways or dropped in paratroopers to capture the runways. And so within 90 minutes, the Ukrainian Air Force ceased to be a relevant factor in this war. And in modern warfare, if you don't have air superiority, or at least, if you're not competitive in the air, then that's pretty much game over. And so that's what we're seeing, Yeah, because of course, you roll your tanks in, but if you have an aircraft that can come in and blow up your tank, that's that.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. You have to be able to stop that aircraft from blowing up your tank. If you don't have another aircraft to stop that aircraft, then, your tank is going to get blown up. It's simple as that.
Yeah.
And so the Russians owned the skies early. And what's weird, what's bizarre, or not bizarre perhaps, but I've said this on my different platforms, that the Zelensky regime, Zelensky is the president of Ukraine. The Zelensky regime is winning the propaganda war.
Right.
But the Russians are winning the actual war.
Right.
And see, at the end of the day, only one of those two matters. See? And so, yeah, we got the situation, and it's, it's all kinds of, weird. So, yeah.
People, the streets are saying you got kicked out the hotel because you've been dropping Russian propaganda from Putin. Is this true?
No. I was thrown out of a hotel because what happened was that I did a video where I discussed the situation in a realistic sense, the way I'm discussing it with you now. And Russia propaganda outfit took what I had said out of context to make it seem as if I were pro-Putin, but I'm not pro-Putin. I'm not pro anybody. And it's not. It's unfortunate, but it's part of war that, people use propaganda. And of course, they twist your words around. I mean, you've been in the game, so you know how it is.
Absolutely.
How you say something and people just clip a piece of it and say that, oh, you said this when you didn't say that. You might have said the complete opposite.
Right.
But since they just clip it out of context, there's no way for you to say, oh, no, this wasn't that way. You see what I mean?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I mean, so they kicked you out of the hotel and they gave you that reason specifically because they said you were you were a problem, I guess, from propaganda purposes or something.
Yeah, they said that I was a Putin propagandist, which I thought was just, it's bullshit.
Right.
But, if somebody's made up their mind about you like that, there's nothing that you can say that will change their minds. Okay. Right. And so it's pointless to try. And I thought it was a pretty low blow, but, and like I said, because what I did was I was comparing how the Americans fight a war with how the Russians are fighting this war.
Right. And
how it's very different. And the Russian television outfit used this to make it seem that I was a Putin apologist or Putin propagandist or something like that. Yeah. I was just comparing two ways of doing it.
He was telling the truth.
Without, yeah.
And that's not
people
allowed.
Don't like that.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
If you tell the truth, especially if you have any kind of nuance, because people want it to be like a Marvel comic book movie, all nice and simple. Here are the good guys and they're the bad guys. And those bad guys, we want to kill them because we're the good guys. It's bullshit,
Yeah.
Reality is a lot more sophisticated and complex than that.
Absolutely. At any point while you were in Ukraine, did you feel unsafe?
Sure, all the time.
Okay.
And so I don't understand this obsession with safety. I mean, it's just, can we curse on your show?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just pussy. It's just, come on, I mean,
what do you mean?
Dude, okay, first of all, it's incredibly narcissistic to think that, you see like there's some random bombing in some city and to think, oh man, that might happen to me. The odds of it happening to you are minuscule.
Right.
And like in my own case, I'm living here in Kharkiv. It's a city of 1.4 million people. Okay. What are the odds of some plane hitting my building? I'm guessing pretty goddamn low. Okay. and on top of that, the Russians are going out of their way not to hit civilian buildings.
Right.
Okay. And so it's like, what's going on here? And that kind of narcissism, like, and the obsession with safety. The thing is also too that to have a fulfilling life, you have to take risks, and to take risks means to get out of safety and potentially be harmed or hurt along the way in order to achieve a goal.
Right.
Well, that's life. If you want to be perfectly safe, this is what you do. You go into a room, put like padding on all sides, all six sides, right? And lock the door and live there forever, and you'll be perfectly safe. Is that a life that you want to live?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't. I think it's pathetic. But, some people are like that, and good on them. I am not like that. And if you ask me, did you feel unsafe? Yeah, I felt unsafe lots of times. So, I mean, like, it's part of life.
It's just this I guess a feeling of unsurety, right?
Well, the thing is, see, if you lack, it is ridiculous to demand of life perfect security.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
You can't have that. It's impossible. Okay. Right. I mean, you walk down the street and there are the odds that a meteorite might hit you on the head and kill you. Mm-hmm. The odds are very small, but it exists. So does that mean that you're not going to walk outside because, hey, a meteorite might kill me? Right. Come on. Right. Okay. And so this obsession with safety, I think it's just pathetic. And whenever somebody starts going down that path of like, oh, I want to be safe and secure, I'm like, oh, I don't think I really want to hang out with you, man. Because life is not like that.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
And so you can't torque down all risk to zero. It's impossible. Absolutely. You always have to run risks. You always have to potentially suffer harm. About a year and a half ago, I went skydiving, solo skydiving. And on my second solo jump, I just completely shattered my ankle. And, it hurt. It wasn't fun. I had to have surgery on it and everything, Yeah. But they gave me great drugs. That was a good thing. but dude, I wanted to experience skydiving. And I knew that one of the risks was that I could die, or I could suffer some severe injury, which I did.
Yeah.
But, I didn't like it.
Right.
But I had made the estimation that the experience was worth the risk. And I suffered a broken ankle. And, I don't mind the broken ankle because I have a great experience. I mean, the cost was worth it. Mm-hmm. And this notion that, you can't have any risk. You have to be safe all the time. Well, then you wind up not enjoying life. And life is short. And this is it. I mean, no disrespect to anybody who's a believer, but I personally am not a believer. I believe that this is the only life we get. So you better enjoy it. And you better really live it and not lock yourself in a padded room, because then that's just existence. Correct. I want to live. I don't want to merely exist.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
So is this how you get to Ukraine? Because you're just a daring man. I hear, you've been in Chile and the desert.
And pussy brought me here.
What?
I got married and, here we are,
Okay.
Yeah, with a couple of kids and all copacetic. But
so you live in Ukraine. That's your residence.
Yeah.
I
live here in Kharkiv.
You speak Russian natively or?
No, I don't speak any Russian, which is kind of like a problem. And to tell you the truth, I'm like at that age where I can't really learn languages anymore. Okay. Or maybe I'm just stupid or probably both, old and stupid, a bad combination. But anyway, I'm just not good at languages and I'm lazy. I'm a bum, because I have people in my life who can help me out insofar as language.
Yeah.
And so it's not really a problem. And I interact with a lot of people online because of great communications technology that we have. I mean, look at you and me. We're talking, continents and oceans away.
Right.
And, no problem. It's crystal clear.
Okay.
And so, I have a lot of friends, and I talk with them like this and here, like my daily life, I've got like a bunch of people who help me out. And so, it's all good.
So maybe you can or cannot answer this question. I'm not sure, but the language, right? Is there a similarity between the language that the Ukrainians are speaking and what the Russians are speaking?
Yes, there is. And the difference is very similar. I've been told this. I have no reason to doubt it, that the difference is sort of like between like Spanish and Portuguese, say, or Italian and French, kind of like the same but different, you know.
Okay.
The different branches of the same tree kind of thing. Okay, which makes complete sense. Like Polish is also similar, and they all kind of like people who know one language can sort of semi understand the other. Just as, for instance, if you know Spanish, you can understand Italian and French kind of, and maybe even get by. You know. So it's kind of like that, yeah.
Are you
now, insofar as like what do ethnic Ukrainians look like different from ethnic Russians? I couldn't tell you. They look the same to me, to tell you the truth.
They look like the same people.
I could not tell the difference, but I've noticed that some people can say, right, yeah, that's Ukrainian and that's Russian. I'm like, okay, I believe you. Yeah. And I think it's just like the narcissism of small differences, that people who are in that can tell the difference, just like, for instance, when you like listen to somebody and you can say, oh, that guy's American. Oh, and that guy's Canadian. Yeah. And you're like, how the hell do you know? And, the language, oot or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah, that guy's Canadian, Right. So it's sort of like that.
Are you familiar with the history of this region?
Of Ukraine?
Kyiv specifically. Kyiv, as I understand it, is the genesis of the Russian people. Is that true? Yeah,
that's basically yes. Kyiv and Rus and that whole thing. Yes, I studied this history in college, and I'm fairly familiar with it. And look, this whole thing, this whole war is, I'll say it, and people are going to say that I'm a Putin apologist for saying this, but I'll say it. This whole war is because of Joe Biden and NATO and the Europeans and how stupid they were. They provoked the Russians into this. Because they kept egging on Ukraine, to with the idea of Ukraine can join NATO, Ukraine can join the European Union. And the final straw was when the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, said that he wanted Ukraine to have nuclear weapons. That's insane. Okay. And it's like, imagine this. Imagine like the Canadians, right? Wanted to get into a military alliance with the Chinese. And they wanted to have Chinese nuclear weapons, in Toronto, aimed at the United States. How would the United States respond to that?
Oh, it's going to be hard to pay.
Yeah, America would have a complete meltdown and would invade Canada instantly. There wouldn't be any debate about it, right?
Right.
That's basically what's happened. See, imagine Canada, a weaker country than the United States, smaller in population, not so rich. Started egging on the United States and saying, "Oh yeah, we're joining up with the Chinese. We're joining up with the Belt and Road Initiative, and we're going to be part of the Chinese club. And we're going to be buddies with the Chinese military, and we're going to bring Chinese advisors to Canada, and it would be great if we had Chinese nuclear weapons too."
Right.
What would America do? They'd have a meltdown. Okay.
Absolutely.
And they would invade Canada, and they just take it over. This is what's happening. It's not complicated. Okay. But this demonization of Putin. Okay. Putin is you want to call him a dictator? That would be accurate. You want to call him an authoritarian president? That would be accurate. You can call him a whole bunch of things, but see, he's not irrational, okay? And I think that's a huge mistake that people in the West are making. They're saying he's irrational.
Right.
Why is he irrational? Because what he's doing with what was going on made complete sense.
Right.
And people are acting like, for no reason whatsoever, Putin and the Russians invaded Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. Well, that's a lot,
Right.
It's for the reasons I explained to you,
Exactly.
Like imagine Canada becoming an ally of China and wanting to have Chinese nuclear weapons in Toronto and you know, I don't know, Edmonton or something.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you got to understand, you have to have a little bit of empathy. And you have to realize that the Russians had been talking about this for years, that they wanted Ukraine to be neutral and they wanted guarantees from the West that they weren't going to pull in Ukraine into any kind of military alliance or anything like that. You know, I mean, for years. And finally, when they started talking about nuclear weapons, putting nuclear weapons in Ukraine, that's when the Russians said, screw this. That's when they're like, the hell with it. But that's basically what happened. Okay. Now, do I think that Zelensky is a good guy? No. Do I think that Putin is a good guy? No. None of these people are good guys.
Right.
But the thing is, see, that's just naive to think that there have to be good guys and bad guys.
Right.
There are people who are in power and they have certain interests, and not personal interests. They have interests for their country.
Right.
You know, I don't have any doubt as to, you know, the love of country of all the people here, you know, all of these leaders, you know, I mean, Zelensky and Putin and Biden and van der Leyen and you know, Schultz and all these people, they love their country. They want what's best for the people. I'm not doubting that, but, you know, you have to understand that these guys are ruthless, all of them, and some of them are remarkably stupid. And unfortunately, the current crop of American leadership and European leadership is remarkably stupid. And they created these conditions.
Right.
And they keep talking like that sanctions are going to fix everything, that sanctions are some sort of magic bullet.
Right.
Well, the thing is, the sanctions, and this is something that, you know, this is true, you know, sanctions are actually going to hurt Europe and the United States much more than they're going to hurt the Russians.
Naturally.
They are. Because, see, the Europeans need the Russians a lot more than the other way around. Okay. And because, see, half of Europe's oil imports, and Europe imports almost all of its oil because it produces very little naturally. I mean, homegrown rather. So half of Europe's oil imports come from Russia.
Right.
And half of its natural gas imports comes from Russia.
Right.
And, you know, the food and all the rest of it. And so the issue becomes, you know, if they antagonize the Russians enough, the Russians are simply going to say, you know, we're not going to sell you any more oil. We'll just sell it to the Chinese and the Vietnamese and the South Koreans and the Japanese who want our oil, which is true, by the way. And so all of a sudden, the Europeans are going to be shit out of luck, right? I mean, they keep on poking the Russians. It's like a mania with these people, you know?
Yes.
You don't fuck with the Russians, okay? Because, you see, they look slow and kind of, you know, not too clever, right? But they are really fucking smart. And when they want to move fast, they move really fucking fast. You know, you ever seen those like really big guys, right? And you think that these really big guys are slow. And then you're like, I don't know, like, you know, on a track or something. And all of a sudden you realize that this guy who's like 6'4", you know, 280 can run like the wind, right? You're like, whoa, what the hell? It's like that. Okay? You don't fuck with the Russians.
Right.
But, you know, but these guys, for some reason, look, what happens is real simple. See, during the 90s, Russia was in very bad shape, okay? The collapse of the Soviet Union and all that. And so a lot of the people in leadership positions think that it's still 1994, okay? That Russia is bankrupt and weak and everything's going to shit for them. Yeah. They don't realize that right now, it's the exact opposite. Russia is doing very well. So they don't have to put up with the Europeans and the Americans shit anymore. They can say, fuck you, and do whatever they want because they've got the muscle. See? And look, that's the reality of the situation. I'm not making a moral judgment. I'm not saying these guys are my favorite team or some shit like that. Right. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying this is the reality today, and we have to get realistic. And the fact that the current leadership is not realistic is very dangerous, and I'll explain why. You see, the current leadership think that they can do whatever they want, and they're going to mess with the Russians, and the Russians are going to blow them out of the water. I mean, it's going to be ugly. Okay? Because the Americans right now are talking about establishing a no-fly zone over Ukraine. That is the dumbest thing imaginable. Okay,
Uh-huh.
why? Because the Russians have better air superiority than the Americans. They'll win,
Really?
and they'll win like decisive. Oh yeah.
Really? Wait,
Okay.
globally or just in that
Yes,
region?
in that region,
Okay.
and that's all that matters.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's not, you don't have to like fly planes around the world. No. And anyway, it's the point. The Russians would beat the Americans badly. Now, what happens with this current crop of American leaders who are incredibly stupid and insecure? And if they lose a really, really big battle, I mean, like really just humiliating, right? Like Afghanistan, but times 10, with a lot of dead soldiers, dead airmen, dead everything, right? Would the Americans maybe decide, hey, why don't we use a tactical nuclear weapon? Because the people who are in charge now, they're that stupid. And so, we're really close to something horrifying happening. And it freaks me out. And the only thing, and the reason I'm on your show is because I want people to understand that the current leadership, they are stupid and they are full of pride and arrogance. And they might wind up doing something incredibly dangerous that cannot be taken back. They might wind up saying, "Oh, we'll just use like one tactical nuclear weapon." It's kind of like, well, you put just the tip, just a little bit, just to see how it feels, And after that, I mean, you drop a nuclear weapon on anybody, they're going to react, man.
Right.
If only to show that you can't do that to them. And the Russians have more nuclear weapons than any power on the face of the planet. Okay, I mean, I do believe they actually have numerically more than anybody else. I could be wrong about that. It's not really important. They got plenty. That's the point. Okay. Right. I mean, they got it in the thousands. Okay. And so it's crazy, but the American leadership is doing that. And so to your listeners, I am telling you, don't fuck with somebody who is tough enough and strong enough to hit back and hit back really, really hard. Okay. This Ukraine situation, it's like, look, the analogy is real simple. You know that squirt, that really arrogant squirt who has like a big brother who's like a big bully, right? And the little brother keeps like messing with other people, thinking that he'll be fine because he's got the backing of his big brother, right?
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the squirt messes with the wrong guy. And the big brother realizes, I can't handle this big guy here. And the little brother gets his ass handed to him. That's basically the situation with Russia, Ukraine, and Europe and the United States. Yeah, the West. And I personally think it's tragic insofar as the Ukrainian people, because the Ukrainian people are lovely people. It's a lovely country. Wonderful people, salt of the earth, but very badly led, and they've been led down the garden path. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What are the sentiments of the Ukrainians towards Russia? Putin?
Well, they hate them, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, they invaded their country. How would you feel if somebody invaded your country? You wouldn't like it. Nobody does. Although there is a substantial portion of people who in Ukraine who do like Putin very much. Okay, it's a minority, but it's in the south and in the east.
Okay,
because those are the people who are ethnic Russians, and they like Putin very much. And I have family members, in-laws. I'm not going to mention which ones, but a few of them like Putin very, very much. And a lot of them consider themselves Russian, even though they're living in Ukraine, and so it's a complicated situation, and so if the Americans get involved in this, anything can happen. And I think the American military leadership is smart enough to realize that they really can't mess with the Russians, because they can't, because the United States has not fought a peer since 1945. And that's a fact. See, they have not fought, toe to toe with somebody who's in their weight class.
Right.
And the Russians are most definitely in their weight class. And in some aspects, they outclass the United States. And hypersonic weapons and air defense, They outclass the Americans. And that's not something that I'm just making up and pulling out of my ass. That's something that the American military knows. The hypersonic weapons scare the shit out of them because there's no way to protect against them because they fly too fast. And the kind of weapon, they fly so fast that just the mass of it, if it hits something, you forget it. It's gone. It's vaporized. You know, something traveling at 7 to 12 times the speed of sound. If it hits anything, it's just all going to be vapor, you know?
The sound wave going to destroy it.
Dude, yeah. I mean, like, this is dangerous stuff. And the Russians are smart. They're smart people, okay? And I'm not saying this to glorify anybody or be a stooge of anybody. I'm talking the reality of the situation.
Right.
And the other problem is the reality of the situation is you've seen the ads for the U.S. military.
Yeah.
You know, the cartoon of the girl with two moms and all kinds of garbage, right?
Yeah.
You know, the American military, they couldn't stage an orderly evacuation from Afghanistan. Okay. Do you really think that they can field an army that can go toe to toe with the Russians? I don't think so. I mean, you know, I'm not a betting man, but if I'm betting, I'd bet on the Russians. Okay. I don't think that the Americans could handle them. I mean, and I'm talking sincerely. But the thing is, see, I think that the Americans think that they could. And in fact, I would argue that a lot of people in the United States, in the civilian population, in the military, and in the political leadership, they're convinced of this. They think that, you know, America is just, you know, that is unstoppable. And well, you know, I don't think so. I think that they're going to get the surprise of their lives. Okay. And it's going to cost the lives of a lot of young men needlessly. You have to be realistic about what you're doing. And the Russians, they are realistic. They are winning this war. For the Americans to get involved, I think it's crazy. And the thing is, see, I know that nobody in the mainstream media is saying what I'm saying. They're all saying the exact opposite. They're saying, oh, you know, we got to go in there, got to beat up Putin. He's Hitler. He's evil. You know, he's bad. And we're good. And we can win because we got the best because we're America, #1. Yeah. And dude, it's just unrealistic. Yeah. Okay. I am not saying this to put anybody down. I'm talking about being realistic. Okay. If you look at a map and what the Russians have achieved in 5 days, you're like, holy shit. Okay. I mean, really, you're like, dude, you know, this kind of advance, the speed of it and the totality of it. And the thing that's really remarkable is the relative lack of damage to civilian infrastructure. I'm in Kharkiv. There is a raging battle going on outside the city between Ukrainian and Russian forces. I have internet. I have running water. I have, the toilet works. You know, I've got, which is really essential. I mean, it's something that you don't notice until it's gone. You know what I mean? I've got heating. I've got everything that I need. You know, the only thing that's going on is that the stores are closed. And so, you know, the food issue is an issue, right? But other than that, all the basic services are running because the Russians didn't touch the civilian infrastructure, right? They didn't hit the cell phone towers, the internet, the water, the electrical grid. Everything is working properly. And they've still, with like essentially one hand tied behind their back, they've accomplished an invasion that I personally think, from what I'm seeing so far, I think it's going to be an invasion studied for decades, like in military academies and shit. Because this is like, it's like the gold standard of invasion. And look, again, I am not, you know, like cheerleading these people. Okay. I'm just talking about the reality. I mean, I find it shocking what they've achieved in the last 5 days. I mean, shocking in terms of amount of territory captured, you know, the advances going forward and all the rest of it.
You said it was faster than the German Blitzkrieg.
Oh, far faster. The Germans took 35 days to capture half of Poland in 1939. Okay. And half of it. Yeah.
Right.
And the Americans took 3 weeks to reach Baghdad. to reach it, not capture it. Okay. That took a few more days. And that was after weeks of saturation bombing, essentially saturation bombing.
Right.
And so this campaign that we're seeing, it's unbelievable. Okay. And the Russians right now, they're amassing like something like 500 tanks to go and encircle Kyiv and take it over. Okay. This shit is like off the charts. I mean, these fuckers know what they're doing. Okay. And again, it's that, when you're like a fan of, I don't know, the Detroit Pistons, right? You're a fan, and this is the 90s, right? I'm showing my age. You're a fan of the Detroit Pistons, and they play, the Chicago Bulls, and you're like, I hate those fucking Bulls, but dude, man, they play well.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due, irrespective of how much you might despise the other side. Okay. Do I think that Russia is a free society? No. Would I want to live in Russia? I don't think so. There are a whole bunch of problems with Russia that I really don't want to get involved with. Right. Right. But you got to give them their due. You got to say, dude, they're good at this. They're really good at this. Okay. And the performance is remarkable. Okay. Again, you're like a fan of the Detroit Pistons, and you're admiring the way that, Michael Jordan, asshole prick that he is because he plays for the Bulls. Well, he's pretty fucking good at the game now, isn't he? Yeah, it's the same thing. You have to, put your moral judgments aside and look at see what you're looking at and realize what's going on. Yeah. You gotta be honest with yourself. And the thing is, I gotta go because unfortunately it's like late here and I'm like really tired, and I'm a little bit, wired. And so I need to come down before I go to sleep. But what I do want to tell you and your audience is that life is not a comic book movie. It's complicated. It's complicated, and people don't do stuff just because they're evil. Okay. People seem to be saying that the Russians invaded Ukraine because they're simply evil. And that's childish and absurd. They had very, very good reasons to invade Ukraine. Whether we agree with those reasons or not, that's for each one of us to decide. But to say that they had no reason for it, no, it's just a lie. Okay. And that's the thing that bothers me the most. So many people in the mainstream media basically say that, basically tell a lie. And the lie is that the Russians invaded for no reason whatsoever. Right. They had good reasons, and they had reasons that were contributed to by Washington and Brussels. And so that's the tragedy, it seems to me. The Washington, the Americans and the Europeans and NATO led Ukraine down the garden path. And then they just left them alone, and they're getting eaten alive. And it's a tragedy, and it's horrible, but this is what's going on. You see what I'm saying?
And now I'm on the internet surrounded by Ukrainian flags everywhere, like it's the new pronouns in the bio.
Well, look, it's all fine to be on the side of the Ukrainians and against the Russians. That's not the issue. I'm on the side of the Ukrainians, okay? Obviously. But I have to be realistic. I have to look at the facts. And some people can't stomach the facts, And I don't, I can't help them, how can I put it? You can always hope that your side wins. Right. But you have to look at things as they are, not as you wish they were. See? Because if you go through life looking at the world as you wish it were, you're going to have just misery and disappointment all the time, because the world is never the way you want it to be. It's always messy and complicated. And quite frankly, the good guys rarely win. Right. And it's because the people who win are those who are stronger and tougher and better prepared and who work harder. That's it. Okay. So, yeah.
But
anyway,
I know you got to go. I know you got to go. But you kind of said something a little controversial. You said you on the side of Ukraine. I know it's probably because you live there, but isn't Putin, doesn't Putin have a very strong interest in wanting to, I guess, control that territory because of NATO and the West expansion?
Well, yeah, but you can control something without owning it,
I mean, see, you don't have to own something to get it to do what you want.
Okay.
Look at the way Putin handles Belarus. Belarus is pretty much in his pocket, or Kazakhstan, pretty much in his pocket, but they're separate countries and they have their own system, their own leaders, their own everything. But insofar as what Putin wants, and what Putin wants is very small. He just wants those countries to not be military threats to his country. And he doesn't want them to be threats for a simple reason. That way, he doesn't have to spend that much money on the military and can devote more to domestic spending and different projects to improve the lives of the Russians. Right. That's what every leader wants. That's why, for instance, the United States is so lucky that it has a peaceful border with Canada, the longest border in the world, right? And the Canadians aren't going to invade the United States anytime soon. And the United States isn't going to invade the Canadians anytime soon. And they have this peaceful border. And what does it mean? It means that Canadians and Americans don't have to spend a boatload of money to defend this border because the two countries are friendly and, all's good. So the Russians, what do they want? They want to have friendly neighbors who are not going to enter into military alliances with powers that are avowedly anti-Russia. Right. Which is simple. I mean, it's fair, okay? Right. And so, and a lot of people say that, Ukraine has the right to join any military alliance that it wants. Well, see, technically, yes. But the reality is that in this world, there are big countries and smaller countries. And it is a fact of life that the smaller countries have to do what the bigger countries want. And for instance, Canada and the United States. The United States wants something, and Canada is pretty much going to do it. Because one is big and the other is little. It's simple as that. Right. And for the Canadians, the Americans are going to try to do it without being, dickheads about it. And the Canadians are going to pretend that they're doing it of their own free will, but that's not the case, man. Right. One of them is pushing the other around because one of them is a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And that's the way it's always been with great powers and great nations, and that's how it will always be. Right. And so, to come up with this bullshit that no, a country can enter any alliance that wants. Well, yes, sure, technically, yes, but when the rubber meets the road, like we are seeing now, this is not the case. The big countries will not allow the little countries to do whatever they want, and if it directly goes against the best interest of the big country is going to invade it. Right. And that is life. Okay. And to argue about it, it's just ridiculous. But this is what's happened. And it's because these crazy people believe in narratives and fantasies and bullshit instead of looking at the world as it is and understanding that it would be wonderful if all the countries were truly equal and they all had equal rights and they could all do whatever. But that's not the case, man. I mean, it's not. And so, we got what we got now. And it's a disaster for Ukraine. On a personal level, it's a disaster for me because I live here. Right. It's all bad for everybody.
Yeah, but it's still plausible for Putin to look out for his best interests.
Well, of course. I mean, he has to. That's his responsibility. Right. Right. I mean, just as Zelensky has to look out for the best interest of Ukraine, and Biden has to look out for the best interest of the United States.
Well, aren't they more like puppets, though? Like Zelensky was installed.
Yeah. Well, that's for another conversation. And really, I gotta go. I gotta go.
Thank you, Gonzalo. Thank you for your time, man. I'm gonna catch you next time.
I look forward to it. I really appreciate it. Thanks very much. All the best.
Bless. Oh man. Let's see how I can do this. I know what I'll do. Hold on 1 second. Let's close this out. Let's do this. Hold on a second. I would have to. Damn. How do I get myself back on the screen now? All right, I know what I'll do. I'll just open up another Zoom and then I'll be there. Give me just a second, y'all. I'm sorry. All right, you should see me now. Anyway, interesting conversation with Mr. Gonzalo there. Very, very interesting conversation we just had. I'm glad I was able to have the conversation. He seems to be one of the most reputable sources on things going on over there in Ukraine. He's in Ukraine right now. Shout out to everybody who made it. I'm going to read the super chats in just a second. But let me try and get this camera situation right. I'll be with y'all in just a jiffy. Not used to doing solo from Zoom here. All right, this should be cool. David Zientara said, I've taken a lot of flack for sympathizing with Russia because the U.S. broke its promises to not expand NATO, and two, the CIA 2014. Cool. Yeah, indeed. Thomas said, thank you for bringing someone on that is in there. Nice to get a glimpse inside the fog of war. Absolutely. Yeah, Coach Red Pill's been doing this. I've been following him very closely, his channel on YouTube, etc., etc. Great perspective from the inside. Cassius cancer the side is whiter than you, quote unquote, for Uncle Hotep. Uncle Hotep's hilarious. But no, I'm gonna be covering. I know we got the State of the Union, so I'll be back later on to cover the State of the Union address from Biden. I'm sure that's gonna be full of laughs and fun, and maybe there'll be some education in that. I'm not exactly sure. But I'm sure we're going to hear a lot about Ukraine in that speech, a lot about Russia, a lot about Putin. The question I have is there going to be any talk of black people? I doubt they'll have much conversation as far as we're concerned. We were fodder for the election, and I'm sure we have been removed from the conversation completely. What else would he talk about? So too, I'm interested to see if he discusses his CBDC, his one world digital currency, his cryptocurrency, as created by Project Hamilton, MIT, and the Boston Fed. We covered that on menoforder.com. So I'm wondering to see if he says anything about that, anything about the Fed and the interest rates, or is he just going to pay lip service? I would bet he's probably going to have a pre-crafted, and this State of the Union is a bit late, or a lot a bit late, and so it's probably well crafted. They've probably been working on this speech for a while now. Hopefully he's rehearsed this well enough. But I wouldn't expect anything too organic to come from Biden. I'm fully expecting some prepared, rehearsed speech. Somebody said he's going to be off 50 milligrams of Adderall. Yeah, we definitely getting Addy Biden. Svinstead, thank you. I appreciate you. But yeah, so that I believe that starts at like 9:30 or something like that. So I'll be back to cover that. I'll get the link up here and within the next couple of hours or so. So if this is your first time watching the channel, subscribe. We'll cover that later. But yeah, I know Russia has striked a couple of spots today. I haven't got a chance to. He said 8 p.m. is too late for Biden. Yeah, right. Exactly. It's definitely too late. He's going to be sleepy. Sleepy Joe's supposed to be asleep by the time that So2 come on. I think it starts at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, or somewhere is about there. I'll double check once I get off here. He just discovered Gonzalo. Yeah. Check out Coach Red Pill, his YouTube channel. Subscribe to him. And it's got a wealth of information from inside the Ukraine. I wish I would have had more time with him, but it's okay. I'm glad we were able to speak anyway. Jabari of Judah said, Chad appearing with a Supreme Court Sean girl tonight. Ooh. Oh. Jabari talk about Chad. Chad be everywhere, bro. They working the hell out of Chad. But yeah, man. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I am
that Hotep Jesus dude.
All right. And this has been another wonderful broadcast. Look forward to seeing you guys later. I'll be back soon. Love y'all. Hotep a bill.